and welcome to Action Teacher Video. Video is a powerful tool that teachers are using to reflect on their own practice and to communicate new ideas. And in this series, we feature videos produced by teachers themselves and discuss the contents and implications here in the studio. In this programme, we'll be looking at an innovative approach to English and art in Ellenbrook Primary School, captured on camera by teacher Chris Mooney, and called Literacy Through Art. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Chris Mooney. Chris, hello and welcome.
Hello.
Joining Chris are two other teachers with some similar experiences and concerns from Tuxwood Community First School, Tim Taylor and Emma Hamilton-Smith. Tim and Emma, hello.
Hello.
I'm also delighted to introduce a consultant and frequent contributor to Teachers TV, Adrian Jones. Hello and thanks for joining us.
Hello.
I wonder, Chris, could you tell me about the aims and background to your video?
Yeah, this was a joint project with a company called CP Creative Partnership. It was right at the end of the term, end of the year, summer term 2, and we were trying to get a new approach to get boys to write in particular, which was a school target over the year. From my point of view, from a teaching point of view, there was two topics: literacy, cultural stories, geography for a developing village. So we chose Ghana. It was topical, it linked various things in together, and it was a good way to end the year, really.
Fantastic. Well, now we're going to look at Literacy Through Art by Chris Mooney.
The setting, Ellenbrook Primary School in Salford. The characters, Year 4, and a visual artist, Johnny Woodhams, who came to Ellenbrook to try a new approach to inspire children in wanting to write.
The aims of this project was primarily to get the children thinking more outside their kind of little world and have more of a world view. And the idea behind that was to use art as the kind of basic instrument to do that with.
So the class are going to engage in various art activities to inspire them to write. In particular, about how they would feel growing up in the country of Ghana. Inclusion was the key at first, a nice, simple, colouring in activity to slowly ease our way into the topic. And then it was time for research, and then more research, and then more research. However, the children were allowed to draw the map of Ghana and were encouraged to write down their facts in different colours, upside down, or even in spirals.
The children all researched their Ghanaian name because there's only 7 girls' names, 7 boys' names, depending on which day of the week you were born. So they all had their own name, which was a really nice way to suck them into thinking about being a Ghanaian child. They all had a name.
The next activity saw the children in for a surprise, as a call to the local Ghanaian embassy had resulted in Grandma Rama and Grandma Afia teaching us phonics, giving us an overview of their home life, allowing us to taste their food, dance to Ghanaian music. We had a never-ending Q&A session which the children embraced. And finally, the best bit, they allowed us to dress up. All the children were very, very happy with the day.
It helped me remember when the 2 ladies from Ghana came in, because it's like an experience that you're never going to forget. They know everything about Ghana, unlike a book. It won't tell you certain things about Ghana.
I knew about the flag and what colours it was, and the football team just because of Michael Leslie, who plays for Chelsea. That's really it.
And what do you know now about Ghana in the last couple of days?
I know what the foods they eat and what they wear and stuff.
The memory of our visitors helped trigger off some big art ideas.
So all this is going to be covered in newspaper, and then what we're going to do, or what you're going to do, I want you to, some point today, in different groups, you're going to make little squares of, some of you can make, we can all make as many things as you like.
Hundreds of images were produced, and then they were mounted up onto the big map by every single child. This eventually became this map. So what about the writing?
Then we started writing these pieces as a story, which then went into a box which was decorated. So the stories became art pieces, and I wanted them to use not because they use quill pens or dip pens in Ghana, but I just wanted them to give some nice texture and movement to the writing, so I chose to use dip nib ink pens because you get that kind of smudgy effect, and sometimes you get... I wanted it to look like it was a real person writing rather than just printed word on paper, so it's got some character to it. So we started then putting the stories into the boxes, which aren't particularly readable within the context of the artwork, but then we wrote them out in neat again, so they'll be readable on the wall. And then put all the artwork together.
So now was the time for the pupils to write. And write they did. On completion, we do what most teachers do. Let the children read out their work. However, it helped enormously that there was a bigger purpose, as all their work was to be displayed in front of hundreds of guests at the annual Lowry Festival. We may not have entertained on the dancing stakes, but we could compete reading our tales, all in front of our completed piece of art. One huge map exploding with Year 4's dreams and adventures of being a Ghanaian child.
Chris, you say it was a collaborative project. Who were you collaborating with?
Well, the man you saw obviously wasn't me. It was a man called Johnny Woodhams, who's a local stand-up comedian stroke artist based in Manchester, who works now for Creative Partnership. He came in and helped me as well as the children in terms of my professional development. For out of the 12 subjects we have as a primary teacher, art's probably my weakest, where literacy is probably my strongest, and it was just to get a new way of getting the kids to write, I suppose, really, and in particular getting them to use their imaginations.
Did the children have an input into the structure of the topic and the project? I mean, did they, for example, have a discussion with him and you about areas they'd like to cover?
They didn't get a choice of the country. Ghana was kind of, because we'd done all the background research into it, but then we allowed them to develop it from then on. So, for example, where you saw the pictures of the map that they'd drawn, there was no input from us, as in just write as normal or write kind of in spirals. That came from them, you know, as in something different, because a lot of them didn't think they were writing, they thought they were doing pieces of art. They couldn't see the connection at first. So ideas do come from them, and obviously things that they'll find on the internet. And because there was 2 Ghanaian women that came to the classroom and spent the day with us, that, you know, you can't plan for that. We didn't know what was going to happen.
Had you organised the Ghanaian grandmas?
That idea actually came from Johnny. I can't take credit from that. What we got across from them more than anything was where you look at books, you look at the internet, sometimes you don't get the whole picture of the country, and quite often they were saying that you only get the poorer side of the country in the research that we can do here in Britain. So they were giving us more a middle class view of what it was like in Ghana, and showing that they do have computers, they were more developed than perhaps the children first thought.
It helped me remember when the 2 ladies from Ghana came in, because it's like an experience that you're never going to forget.
They know everything about Ghana, unlike a book. It only tells you certain things about Ghana.
I knew about the flag and what colours it was, and the football team just because of Michael Lesley, and who plays for Chelsea. That's really it.
And what do you know now about Ghana in the last couple of days?
I know what the foods they eat and what they wear and stuff.
The memory of our visitors helped trigger off some big art ideas.
Well, the children obviously really enjoyed that project. What do you think, Adrian?
Well, it's really useful to give pupils a voice. And I was going to ask, what changes did you see over time? I mean, how long was the project?
The project was over 2 weeks.
Right, so
Johnny Woodhams came in for 3 days each week, so a total of 6 days, and it was throughout the day as well. It wasn't just, you know, just 1 lesson a day or 2 lessons a day.
So what changes did you observe in the individual children that have just spoken?
It's one of those experiences they won't forget. It's one of those things that months later they're still talking about, mainly because of the size of the map. You know, it's such a big focal point to keep on reminding themselves of the project. Changes in particularly the lower ability boys. for the first time in the year we're producing larger volumes of writing, but the thing it got for me was using their imaginations. So where, for example, children are very good at this age of changing the setting, like a science fiction story, like a historical story. The one thing they're not very good at is trying to be someone else.
Did you really think that art and literacy fused?
If you'd have asked me before the project, I'd have said, I'm not sure, probably not. Now I've seen it, yes, I would do.
This eventually became this map. So what about the writing?
Then we started writing these pieces as a story, which then went into a box which was decorated. So the stories became art pieces, and I wanted them to use, not because they use quill pens or dip pens in Ghana, but I just wanted them to give some nice texture and movement to the writing, so I chose to use dip nib ink pens because you get that kind of smudgy effect and something.
Tim and Emma, what do you think about that approach to writing? Would you use it in your school?
I don't think we've used anything quite like this, but it would be definitely, when I saw the video I was very interested, because one of the hardest things for a teacher to do is to get boys writing, when we all know how difficult that is. And I was very interested in seeing how Chris, through the extended time that he was spending with the artist, got those boys writing, because that is a tricky thing to do. And it seems to me that what seems to be happening, and not just with Chris but in research, in education, is that we're learning that we need lots of time to think and have things to write about, and that was what we were seeing from Chris.
What do you think, Emma?
I agree, yes. I mean, it was clear from the video that the children were really engaged, the boys as well, and they were just thoroughly enjoying the artwork and the written work. So yes, I think it's a really positive thing, and I think it's a really good thing to use in the classroom. Anything that gets children engaged like that, it has to be a positive tool for teachers.
Do you think there's an issue here about maybe watering down literacy activities when they're infused in cross-curricular activities?
I'm not really sure I understand what we mean by watering down. I mean, I think there's a focus in the literacy strategy on skills. And what I think we need to stress much more with children, or perhaps in an equal way, is the creativity side of it. And I think that it's very difficult for children to focus on both at the same time. So we need to create opportunities for both.
Chris, obviously, but from your video, it shows that the children really were feeling very enthused by this project, and their writing showed that.
I was happy with the writing overall. It's the argument, do you want to be creative or do we want to prepare them for SATs? And it's which way you want us to go, really. You've got to try and do a variety over the year. We've got different kinds of learners in the class. So you want to try and do different things. You can't do the same thing all the time, and this was just another different approach. I wouldn't do art through, or literacy through art. I wouldn't do that every single week. I might only do that once or twice a year, but it's just another approach.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good point to end on, but I'm sure that this will provoke much more discussion. You can, of course, find out more from our website at teachers.tv. It only remains for me to say thank you to our teacher producer Chris Mooney and guests Tim Taylor and Emma Hamilton-Smith, and thanks also to our consultant Adrian Jones. Please join us again on Action Teacher Video, and in the meantime from me, Xanthi Steen, goodbye.